All right, call to order the Board of Assessors meeting on May 9th, 2024, and for the record, it is 4:02 p.m. Let's see. Do we have anyone recording other than LakeCAM? I do not see anyone else here, and I'm assuming none of us are.
Nope.
There is no public comment because there is no public here. And we have to review and approve some prior meeting minutes, which we have already received from Linda. It looks like we all have signed off that we have seen it, so.
I think the rest of these just need Dave's signature.
Yeah, this is, well, the minutes, we gotta
We
approve
have
the
to make a
minutes.
motion to,
For the Thursday, April 11th meeting, do we have a motion to approve these minutes?
so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carries unanimously. All right, we can give that back to Linda. And we have some documents that need to be signed. Let's see, invoices are all signed. Motor vehicle monthly reports are included in that stack, along with real estate monthly reports. So, next agenda item, which is probably the only heavy lifting we have to do today, is discuss releasing some overlay funds, which the select board has
Requested.
reached out to us that they'd like us to release some of the funds that we have in our overlay account that I believe we are very well funded at this point, so we probably can release a little to the town.
By very well funded, how much?
Dave, I'll turn over to you.
Well, you have $377,577.85 in the account. So, well, sorry, you have 565,000. You could release up to 377,000, but they're only asking for 25,000. If we go on the DOR website and look at your average over the last several years, we are at.
The overlay is for abatements, right?
Correct, yeah, and when you're done looking at
Yep.
that, Dave, maybe you can give a quick outline, only because it's on LakeCAM, so people are probably wondering what
Yeah,
this
sure.
money is and why we have $500,000 sitting around.
So your 5-year average is 161,000. That includes last year, it includes the recertification year, which is typically when communities see a heavier amount. In Lakeville, last year it was 135. The highest of your 5 years is FY21, which was 220,000 in abatements given back. It's not surprising because we were in the midst of the COVID market at that point, so people were very closely watching their valuations. So for anyone who's watching at home and for those who don't understand, the overlay is an element of the tax rate recap process. We set aside money to cover any real estate abatements that we give back. It's a component of the budgeting process, so it's all built in. It's all baked into your tax rate, so it doesn't have a positive or negative effect on the tax rate. It's just part of it.
Right, it's almost like a little,
So we budget money.
Right, I wasn't gonna say rainy day fund, we'll basically have a savings account put aside within town that basically
Yeah.
says, as people come in for abatements, which happens on a regular basis,
And those
it
abatements
fluctuates.
include any kind of statutory exemption that's refunded to folks because they're elderly or
Veterans.
a qualifying veteran or a disabled person who fits into one of the exemptions that we've elected into. So that fund is designed to protect the town from having to go out and ask the taxpayers for any additional monies because of those issues.
Right,
So do we budget the same amount every year?
No, it fluctuates a little from year to year. The DOR likes us to keep it within range of the 5-year average.
Okay.
So even if we were to take the 25,000 out of here, we'd still be at 352,000, which is more than
above.
double what we would need for our 5-year average.
right. And it's
So-
commonplace as the fund gets built up to release it back to the town so we can use
Yep.
it for operational funds. I mean, some communities tend to keep putting it away and stockpiling it to kind of
Yeah.
use it for certain things that they want, but that's not
Yeah,
very
some communities use it
transparent.
as a way to fund future projects because when the money gets released, it gets released essentially into the general
Into
fund.
the general
You
fund.
get to.
So the town gets a $25,000.
Yeah, so that's why we like to do this at our
In flux.
meetings, talk about it, so it's
That they
nice
can
and
use for
transparent. They
Well,
can-
it's still subject to appropriation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's not.
So town meeting still has to make a
That's
decision.
pretty clear, I think.
Yeah,
So my recommendation would be to give the 25,000. So the statute allows for two things to happen. You folks can either do it on your own, or you can do it upon request from the town. In this case, the town has asked for 25,000. I would recommend that you release 25,000.
Make a motion to go along with the recommendation and release the 25,000.
I'll second that.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right.
And for the record, if it did get too big, even without a request from the town, this board traditionally, we haven't had it grow to that extent in a long time, but if it did, we would release it
I
anyways.
think the last time we released was 2 years ago, about $100,000.
Right,
So what's the lowest balance we'd ever get down to?
You wouldn't want to go below your 5-year average.
Which is 100.
And from my perspective, I wouldn't go below what your highest in the last 5
Okay.
years was. So for in our case, it would be 220,000.
Okay.
What was last year's abatement amount?
Last year was 135, I think.
Is that what that overlay balance
137,
was?
456, right?
Oh yeah, there you go.
Down the bottom. Okay.
And the real estate outstanding column, these are taxes that we haven't successfully collected?
Yeah, these are taxes that.
At one point, do they become written off? Are they always on there because there's a lien?
So the real estate ones aren't written off. We would go through the tax title process, and that's the treasurer collector's office that exercises that authority. I would bet that some of these are already in the tax title process, specifically the older of them. With personal property, we go through a write-off process every so often. These balances have declined over the years. It requires a research process to determine whether or not the business is still in
Can you
existence.
lien that or no?
You can't. No,
What
it's
do you
just a
mean?
write-off.
It is a municipal lien though, right? The personal property tax?
I think just the real estate.
Oh, no, you can't lien it.
No, yeah, you can't lien it. What are you gonna lien?
Well, what's it based on? What are we charging people for?
Computers, desks.
I guess we can lien that, right?
I think technically, yes, you could lean, but in reality, what are you gonna
Yeah,
lean?
it's hard enough to
Depreciated
get
piece of
the real
equipment,
estate
at
one.
that point, at that point, it's already,
Right.
years gone by, so.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any new business to come before the board?
I'll write a letter to Todd and Bob, and I'll copy you, John,
Okay.
saying that we've elected to release the 25,000.
Perfect. Do we have any old business come before the before the assessors? We do not, and I think we have one,
Two items.
two executive session items. One is an abatement, and are they both abatements?
The other is CPA exemptions.
CPA exemption, okay. So, having said that, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for the two items we just mentioned, not to return to open session, so we will be
So moved.
adjourning this session at this point. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Because it's executive session, it's gotta be roll call, Oliveri, aye.
LeBlanc, aye.
Lamoureux, aye.
Okay, we are adjourned from regular going into executive.